What's going on, everybody? Ari Blue here. Thank you for joining us here on Facebook Live for Q&A with Ari Blue. And we want to remind everybody to submit your questions. Please submit them below right here on Facebook Live with the hashtag AskAriBlue. I'm on Twitter as well, at AriBlueDU, and also at _SFBN. As most of you know, if you follow high school basketball, the PIAA brackets are out. So we told everybody a little bit earlier in the week to submit your questions about the PIAA brackets. So we got a few of them. So we'll start off here with our first question. And this one comes from Lisa. Which city teams have the best shot at winning state championships? Well, that's a great question, Lisa. And District 12 has really had a ton of success at the state level over the last few years. We'll start with the 6A boys. That one might be a little bit tough. Roman Catholic is the top seed out of District 12. They have a really tough road. This is a young team with a first-year head coach in Matt Griffin. Really tough road. They start with Perkiomen Valley, who was the number one seed going into the District 1 6A tournament. Justin Jaworski, a great player, so that's going to be a tough matchup. Then if they win that, they'll likely play Reading with Lonnie Walker, who's going to Miami. Then if they win that, they play PW with the 7-footer Naeem McLeod. So Roman Catholic probably won't get out of those three games, is my guess, but certainly they would be the favorite. Then you look at 5A, 4A, and 3A, and in my mind, Archbishop Wood, Imhotep, and Neumann-Goretti, respectively, are all the odds-on favorites to win those respective classifications. You look at the 2A boys, it's always the same thing over the last couple of years at least, where MCS, Math, Civics, and Sciences, and Constitution are the top two teams from the city, and they're pretty good in terms of 2A. They definitely could compete even with the 3A and 4A and even 5A, 6A teams. So they're probably going to face off in the state semifinals again, and the winner of that game will go to Hershey with a shot at the state championship. Not a lot going on in 1A for the boys. Then on the girls' side, you take a look at the three Catholic League teams, the top three teams from the Catholic League: O'Hara in 6A, Archbishop Wood in 5A, and Neumann-Goretti in 3A. I would say all three of those squads have a shot at the state championship. I would say Neumann-Goretti probably has the best chance. They probably have the easiest path at the low classification at 3A. Archbishop Wood at 5A, they probably have a good chance. O'Hara will probably have the toughest road because they're going to have to face a couple of those good District 1 teams. So, Lisa, thank you very much for submitting your question. And again, you can submit your questions throughout right here on Facebook Live using the hashtag AskAriBlue. So thank you again for joining us and submitting your questions. Our next question comes from, that's a perfect lead-in. This next question is about District 1 from Jason. Which District 1 teams have the best shot at a state title? Great question. District 1 has not had a ton of success. Even though they get a lot of teams in that 6A bracket, they have not had a ton of success going to Hershey and winning at Hershey. The girls' side they have, CB West won last year. On the boys' side, Abington. You got to look at Abington. They were the District 1 champs, and we've talked about it on Varsity Voice a ton, where Eric Dixon and many of other good players like Robbie Heath, among others, Lucas Monroe, another guy, that they are definitely the one team out of this area that was definitely the favorite to potentially win 6A at the state level. So I would say Abington's still the favorite, and I would put them in over Roman Catholic, the best city team. I would say Abington's definitely the favorite. I would say Plymouth Whitemarsh has a shot as well, and you can't count out a lot of those other District 1 teams who made the tournament. You look at a team like North Penn. I'm looking at the bracket right now. Downingtown West. So you have some teams in there. Conestoga, Coatesville, another team as well that lost in the District 1 championship. So those are all teams that definitely have shots at the 6A level. 5A for boys, Pencrest and Chester. It's interesting because Pencrest won District 1 5A, the tournament. And then Chester was the number 1 seed, got knocked off in the second round by Upper Merion. Because of the way that worked with the playbacks, they're going to play each other potentially. If they win their games this weekend, they're going to play each other in round 2. And the winner of that game, I think, could make a run. And we alluded to the 6A girls. CB West has had some success in the past. Abington won District 1. You got to put them in the mix. CB South, and of course North Penn. They're always in the mix. Great coach over there with Maggie DeMartelaire. So definitely all of those teams have a shot in 6A girls. So again, thank you very much, Jason, for submitting that question. And a reminder, we actually have the boys brackets up on our website, thesfbn.com. Make sure you go to our website, check that out. We have a lot of great stories from this past week up there as well with great photos. We have a great crew that goes out to cover a lot of these basketball playoff games. And in fact, we'll have some more coverage this weekend for the PIAA first round games. But make sure you check that out on our website. Links to our past broadcasts, links to our shows, Varsity Voice, which are archived on our YouTube channel. We've got links to that as well. Lots of good stuff. Make sure you go to our website, thesfbn.com. Okay, we have another question here coming in. This is from Mike, again, about the PIAA tournament. Who could be a sleeper in the state tournaments? That's a very good question. And I actually have to look at the brackets to think about this. First looking at the 6A boys, I mentioned a couple of them, Lower Marion, PW, North Penn even, from District 1. Out of District 12, Archbishop Ryan, who's the 3 seed out of District 12, they play Parkland in the first round, definitely a winnable game, and then they're going to have to play Abington. But Abington is a team that has struggled against the Philadelphia Catholic League teams. In fact, they couldn't even contend with Archbishop Wood in a game that we covered on SFBN. So that, to me, is an intriguing second-round matchup where Archbishop Ryan, if they square off with Abington, I would not be surprised to see the Raiders pull off an upset. They gave Archbishop Wood all they could handle in the Catholic League semis, and Wood handled Abington fairly easily during the year. So just by that association, I think Archbishop Ryan could potentially make some noise. Penwood as the 7th team out of District 1, and Perkiomen Valley as the 8th team out of District 1. So that is all 6A boys. I'm going to jump over here to the 5A boys, although I don't really see anybody beating Archbishop Wood. I mentioned about Pencrest and Chester. But in terms of surprises, Springfield Delco is not a bad team as well out of District 1. Great Valley, who got upended in the semifinals or quarterfinals, I believe, of the District 1 tournament. They're not a bad team as well. And in terms of the girls, I don't really think it's going to be too many sleepers. I think the teams that I mentioned in all the brackets, whether it's the city or the District 1 suburbs, I think that's kind of what we're looking at. So maybe Archbishop Ryan is my super sleeper, if you will, out of District 12. They may have a chance to make some noise. I alluded to earlier, by the way, thank you, by the way, for that question. That question was from Mike. We have our show, Varsity Voice, on the Comcast Network. We're off this week, but we'll be back next week. Myself and Mike Samsel, as well as Aaron Ace Carter from the Philadelphia Inquirer, will be in to break down what we're going to see this coming weekend. So make sure you tune in next Thursday night. That'll be March 16th on the Comcast Network at 6 and 11 p.m. and on Comcast Sportsnet at 11:30 p.m. And remember, you can go to our website, thesfbn.com. You can check out all of our archived episodes. They're up on YouTube, our YouTube channel, and of course we have all the great content that I alluded to earlier. Make sure you check out our website, thesfbn.com. And thank you again for tuning in here on Facebook Live. We do have one question here that was just submitted. We're coming up towards the end of our Q&A with Ari Blue here. Thank you again for joining me. If you have any questions, again, submit it, hashtag #AskAriBlue. And if you submit it after we go off live, we'll get to it next week because we'll be back on next Tuesday at 6 p.m. So this is our last question. This comes up from Joey. Can Neumann-Goretti repeat as Catholic League, City, and State champs? Oh, baseball. This is a baseball question. Okay. We're switching gears a little bit. We are kind of getting ready for the spring, and we're going to get into the spring a little bit on Varsity Voice as well as on our website as we get into March here. That's a good question. I have not done my research on Neumann-Goretti baseball yet, but what I can tell you is the Saints have a great program. They will probably be maybe one of the top 1, 2, or 3 teams in the Catholic League this year. They always are up there. And they play at, I believe, the 2A or 3A classification in baseball, and they certainly have a chance. I mean, they've had some great players in the past. One guy I can think of is Josh Ockamy, who's now in the Boston Red Sox organization. A great slugging first baseman, and I hope he makes it to the big leagues one day. That would be pretty cool. To answer your question, I don't know, Joey. I really don't know yet, but I would say that they certainly have a shot. They always have some great players. So thank you for the question, and thank you for bringing up baseball. I'm going to start to look into that. We do have one final question here. This was just submitted. Okay, this comes from Brandon W. Will SFBN be covering any spring sports this season? Okay, well, we're all about the spring right now as we wrap up Facebook Live Q&A with Ari Blue. We'll be covering some spring sports on our website, thesfbn.com, on our broadcast portal. We'll have maybe a couple of girls lacrosse games, some softball games. There are a couple of spring basketball games as well. But I think that we'll be covering some games via broadcast. Varsity Voice, our final episode is on March 23rd, so we won't really be covering a ton of spring sports. We'll touch on spring a little bit on that last episode on Varsity Voice, previewing what's to come for the spring season. But make sure you check our website, thesfbn.com. We'll definitely have at least one girls lacrosse game and probably at least one softball game. So we'll definitely at least cover a little bit of the spring sports. So thank you for the question, Brandon, and thank you for talking to us about spring sports. Well, we had a lot of great questions, and thank you for tuning in. That about wraps up this session of Q&A with Ari Blue here on Facebook Live. And remember to use the hashtag AskAriBlue. We'll get to your questions next week. I'll be back on next Tuesday at 6 p.m. And we're off this week again on Varsity Voice. It'll air next Thursday, March 16th on the Comcast Network. Thank you again for everyone who contributed and who watched here on Facebook Live. Have a good night.